Hi friends, welcome back for another tutorial with Gems by Kelly. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a mixed metal ring to include alternating metals on the ring band. So to get started, we're going to first of all need to pick our stone. We're going to be making our ring with this gorgeous hyperstein. And then we need to get our tools. So tweezer nose pliers, our flush cutters, nylon pliers just in case, and of course since we're making a ring, we're going to need our ring mandrel. As far as wires go, we're going to first need a scrap piece of wire. I like finding anything like 21 gauge or smaller. This is going to be to measure our ring size. And then we're going to need our mixed metal wires. So for this one, just like the one I already showed you, we're going to be using copper and sterling silver. So we'll need 22 gauge square copper, 22 gauge sterling copper, and then our weaving wire, which I'm going to do weaving in half round with copper. And that is also going to be 22 gauge. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we need to measure our ring size. I'm going to aim for about a 10 on this ring. So we're going to take our scrap piece of wire, find our size 10, and go ahead and wrap our wire all the way around that size. I like to crisscross them on the opposite side. Make sure it's nice and snug there. We're going to slide it off, and then where those wires crisscross, just go ahead and give it a snip. Just like that, we've got our ring size 10. So I'm going to go ahead and straighten this out here. Okay, now we're going to use this to measure the length of wire that we need to cut. And how I like to do it is measure it 3 times plus a little extra of what this size is. So we're going to start with our 22 gauge copper square wire, and we're going to measure once. Put my finger there. This does not have to be super accurate. Twice, and 3 times. So it's ending here, but I'm going to cut on the other side of where my finger is to give me that little bit of extra play and wiggle room. So I'm going to go ahead and cut one more piece of copper and then 2 pieces of sterling, and I will be right back. Welcome back. I now have my 4 wires, and I've lined them up so that the copper wires are on the outside and the sterling wires are on the inside. Make sure they're nice and flat and straight next to each other. I just like to give a gentle pinch to make sure I've got them all flat. Now we're going to get our 22 gauge half round copper, and we're going to start out on the band. I'm going to pull nice and snug there. Wrap it just a few times, and then I'm going to reverse it so I can wrap this end here. Now where you start wrapping this is very important. So we're going to take our scrap wire and line it up with the bottom of our wires and make sure that our weaving starts above where that scrap wire ends. So I'm giving myself a little bit of a gap there, just like that. Now we can set our scrap wire aside again, and I'm going to go ahead and flatten these, and then we'll cut this end so we're not poking ourselves as we work. All right, so I like the look of 5 wraps, and then we're going to bring up our middle sterling pieces. Just going to put a slight bend in them so it comes straight up. Now what's very important is that you don't wrap these too tightly, because we're going to have to bring our sterling pieces back down, right? So I'm going to gently twist and just lay that half round flush against my 2 copper pieces. And we're going to go 3 times around. So our pattern is going to be 5 around all 4 wires, and then 3 around just the copper wires. Now I'm going to take my tweezer nose, not my nylon pliers, because they're a lot smaller. Make sure they're nice and tight against those sterling wires, and go ahead and flatten them down. Now we're going to bend our sterling back down. And then take our nylon pliers and give it a gentle squeeze to make sure our sterling goes flat back down there. And then we're going to continue on with our 5 wraps around. Be patient with yourself on this. This band takes longer to do than if you were just wrapping all 4 wires straight around. So we've got 4 there, and once more. Go ahead and pinch these down, make sure it's nice and snug. You will see that there is a gap in between where your bindings are. That is completely fine. That's also why I like to use my weaving wire, have the same type of wire as my outside wires, because it blends in just a tad bit more than if it were sterling on copper. All right, so let's go ahead and bend our sterling pieces back up. And we'll go 3 times around. Bend our sterling back down. All right, and we're just going to continue our pattern here. Get these guys straightened out a little bit. Until we are the length of our scrap wire with a little bit of gap on either side. You determine what this gap is based off of the width of your stone. So if I were to take the scrap wire and put it across the width of my stone, right about there, I'm going to split that width in half because we're coming up from both sides at that stone. So about that gap, that distance of a gap on either end of our weave. And that's going to be how long you make your weave. So keep on going till you get the correct length there, and I'll see you back then. Welcome back. As you can see, I got a little bit of a gap on either side of my wire, a little bit bigger than what I would want, but we don't have enough space to do another set. So we're going to go ahead and stop right here. And what we're going to do is cut ourselves a nice long tail on our half round. About like that. And we're going to get our ring mandrel again. We were aiming for that size 10. So let's go to our size 10, hold it there with our finger, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it around. Now you can see on here, if we did another section, we would be way too close. So now that that's crisscrossed, I'm going to go ahead and shrink it a little bit. We're going to go ahead and wrap all 8 of those wires together. This is going to form the base for our stone to sit on. Now I'm doing it this way because we have a cabochon, which is a flat backed stone. If we had a facet that had the pointed back stone, we would not be doing it this way. I think I actually am gonna do one more set. So let's back this up just a little bit here, because I really don't like how wide that is. All right, one more. Let's get this back on our ring mandrel really quick. There's our size 10, there we go. All right. Now let's go ahead and wrap these base wires together. Now in doing this part, you don't want to pull your half round so tight that your wires overlap each other here. You want it to be a nice flat base for your stone to sit on. Now, as you do this part too, your opening is more than likely going to widen. So we want to make sure we're putting it back onto our ring mandrel to check our size every so often. because you may want a size 10 ring, but you may end up with size 12 if you are not checking regularly. So I'm going to set my ring mandrel down to tighten this up. Make sure we're on top of that size 10, and we're just going to slide them. So I can probably fit like one more wrap around. Let's do 2 for good measure. And 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and slide this real nice and close. Flatten it down. And we're gonna give our half round a cut. Make sure you're cutting on the top because our stone's gonna sit on top of this end. So whoever's wearing this is not gonna get scratched by that end. And you can see where we started there, the end is on top as well. Same reasoning. Pull those nice and tight close together. Give it one more good squeeze, make sure it stays. All right, so we're gonna grab our hyperstein stone or whatever stone you chose to use. There we go. Okay, now what we need to do is take the innermost wire on each side and wrap it around so that we can secure our stone. So what I like to do first is just, whoops, not push it apart, but pop these innermost wires open or up first before we have our stone sitting there, because that's also going to help hold this part together. Now this is another part you also really have to be patient with yourself because you're working with the cab and it's flat on the bottom and you're putting it on a flat surface. It's gonna want to go flying on you, so just be patient. Take your time adjusting this and getting a good hold on it. And what we're gonna do is bend those inner wires over and around, and you can adjust these in just a minute. Just get a good start on them so you can move your fingers and then go back and adjust. Right, we're going to get this first wire folded through the center. And we'll get our second wire brought around and fold and push it through the center. We want it to be far enough on the top of our stone that our stone can't fall out if you flip it over. But we also don't want it to be so far up that your stone has room to slip out the sides. That is pretty darn snug. So now what I'm going to do, before I cut any wires, I'm just going to go ahead and pinch this flat on both sides to make sure that wire is still right where I want it to hold the stone, and then it's still holding nice and snug. Now these two are your most important wires to get correct because they are going to be holding your stone in. Everything else you can make it tighter, but it's more so design. These two are going to be your most important to keep that stone right where you want it in your ring. There's no movement on my stone, which is really good. That's what I like. Get it nice and flush up against the stone there. Okay, I'm going to bend these other wires up just a little bit because I want to take this wire underneath them. Now we're going to go ahead and cut, and I like to cut using the beveled side of my flush cutters so that I can, when I bend this down, it's already got that angled edge, so it's not going to be too sharp and scrape whoever is wearing your ring. There we go, and let's do the same thing on this side. Oops, see, I put them too far down on the edges. Glad that happened now rather than at the end when we've got everything already done. I'm gonna go ahead and go back and just tighten those down, flatten them down. Bring that wire up just a little bit. There we go. All right, and our stone is set. Now the rest of these are just all design work, whatever you would like to do. So I'm actually going to twist a couple of these, the next ones in, these sterling ones here. Anytime I'm just twisting square wire for rings, I twist it pretty tight to smooth it out, otherwise your edges can get pretty sharp, being that it's a square wire. And you know what, while we're here, let's go ahead and twist these copper ones as well. We're just gonna do a simple ring style today. Make sure you have a good hold on your ring too while you're twisting wires that are attached to it, so your ring does not go spinning on you. All right, so the wires on this side are going to follow the exact same path as your initial inner wires. So we went this way and came around this way. So we are crisscrossing wires here, which is completely fine. Let me cut this wire a little bit shorter. There we go. Okay. I'm going to start both of them bending at the same time because I don't want to overlap these two on each other. Alright, we're going to do that same thing as the first wire. So we're going to go opposite side, fold through the middle. Now come underneath these two wires here. Give it a nice pull. And snip the end there. I need to cut that one a little bit shorter as well. Give it a nice pull. Go ahead and flatten. All right, just like that. Now, being that this is bulking up a little bit from the overlapping on these sides, I don't want to really overlap anymore. So I'm going to reverse the direction we're going, which is completely fine. You can go whatever direction you want with these wires. I'm going to bring this copper one out of the way really quick. We're going to grab some half round sterling and we're going to go ahead and coil these wires real quick. Actually, just cut a length of this will be easier. When I am coiling on, onto a ring with half round, I don't start at the end because it's really hard for me to hold it straight. But as you coil a little bit, maybe about like 8 times around or so, especially when you're working with sterling because it's so springy. It's much easier to hold your coil and get it nice and snug when you're not right up next to your ring. And once we've gone around a few times, I'm going to go ahead and snip this end. Move it in next to the rest of it. We're gonna just slide it on down to our ring and make sure wherever the end is that you cut now is tucked in so we're not getting scratched. There we go. Alright, let's get our copper out of the way again. Now that we're further out away from the ring, it's a little bit easier to hold and get nice and snug. Now this doesn't need to be super long because we're just bringing it around to the opposite side. It's not a far distance to go, but I know we're gonna need a little bit more than that. Alright, go ahead and fold it through the middle. Okay, pull straight up, beveled side down when you cut your wire. So you've got that angled edge on that wire. And then we're gonna fold down and flatten. All right, let's do the same thing on our other side here. Oh, just overlapped each other. I wanted them to be close, but not that close. Right. All right, let's go ahead and cut this starting end. Make sure our end is well tucked in. Alright, let's check and see where we're at. Need a few more. Don't cut your fingers. You work in small spaces. I want to make our sides even before I secure it down. Oop. Not bend it down that way. That's not where we want it to go. Alright, let's go ahead and secure it. There it goes. Alright, and then the last one are copper ones here. We're just going to pull around. Now, a lot of times on ring bands, I do like to do little coils on the edge, little curls on the edge, like these ones. But because we already have a design here, I don't want to cover any of that up. So we are just going to secure these flat. Just like so. You can adjust your wires as you see fit. Or as you see a need, I guess. Make sure everything is nice and snug up against your stone. Alright, our last and most important step. We need to hammer it to work harden that band. Now on this type of design, I am not hammering it hard. And the reason for that is because you have your half round going in and out of the square wire. You hammer it too hard, you can actually cut through that half round wire, excuse me. So we're hammering it to work harden, and that is it. If you need to go back and hammer it a little bit more because the size is off or a little bit too snug, feel free to do that. Just take your time doing it and don't hammer it too hard. But there you have it. Nice finished ring with an alternating wires on the band. Let me know if you try this tutorial out and how it works for you. If you have any questions, comment down below. Happy to answer them. I'll see you in the next one.